Starting off this week, we are doing the MLB Week 12 power rankings. And as you can see, the biggest movers are the Cincinnati Reds and the Cleveland Guardians. The Reds had a great week and they're continuing their week before into this week as they just keep on winning ball games against some good baseball team. Where the Guardians, they just keep on falling. And the stories of the week are the Royals, also in the AL Central, 1-8 on their last nine, obviously on a losing streak as well. Same with the Nationals, 8 game losing streak, 1-9 in their last 10. And then all the big news was Sunday night, Monday morning. Red Sox trade Rafi Devers to the Giants for Jordan Hicks, Kyle Harrison, and two other minor leaguers. And then all the drama today about they don't really need him to win, blah, blah, blah. And let's see how this goes because they play each other this weekend. So that's going to be an interesting storyline to watch heading into this weekend. And then Shohei Ohtani is pitching on Monday night. He's just opening, not going to, you know, probably pitch 80, 90 pitches. It'll probably be a max of 40, 50 pitches would be my guess. But it's great to see him back on the mound. And then Stanton as well, activated from the IL to play Monday night in his first big league game. And then obviously I'm going to leave this Aaron Judge statistic up all year because what he's doing is just crazy. He's definitely on pace to win the Triple Crown. I mean, he's behind in RBIs for I think it's like 6 or 7, and it's not even, that bad. So he's definitely within reach to possibly get that Triple Crown this year. 30 through 26, all the teams you expect to be here. The only good team last week were the Marlins, 4-2 week, but they swept Washington and they lost the series to Pittsburgh. That's why they're still down here. But, the Nationals, as you can see, they're 0-6 last week. They fall one spot. They're still above the Athletics and the Marlins, even though the A's had a good week and beat Kansas City and Kansas City. I just think the Nationals record-wise is a little better than what the A's got going. Royals at 21, 0-6 as well last week against the Yankees and Athletics at home. It's a bad look. That's why they're dropping 5. Then they go on the road to play two good ball clubs, Texas and San Diego. It could get ugly quick here for the Royals if they don't turn it around this week. Same goes for the Braves. It's division week. You got the Mets and the Marlins. If they want to get somehow back to 500, they got to win both these series. They started off last week winning 2 series in a row. Maybe they can keep that momentum as they head into the Mets series. Pirates, ho-hum, just kind of floating around the mediocrity. Same with the Angels. I thought maybe they were going to go into Baltimore and win that series and get to 500, but they get swept. That's a big oof if you're an Angels fans. And then they go to New York and face the Yankees, and then they get Houston at home. So 7 games against playoff teams this week. Angels, you got to at least go 4-3 this week to really keep up for a playoff spot. And then the Orioles, they got to do a lot. Obviously, the Orioles beat the Angels. That's why they're ahead of them. They got to go to Tampa, who's probably the second or if not first hottest team in baseball. Got to get a series win there, and then go to New York and get a series win. If they can get that, then things are going to go back on track. But the pitching is going to be key because that's what's holding them back this year. 16 through 20. As you can see, there's only one team in this slide that is moving up, and that's going to be the Texas Rangers after a 5-1 week last week. They beat the Twins in a series in Minnesota, obviously swept the White Sox. So it's nothing too crazy, but they did get back to 500, and that's a good sign for the Rangers in the AL West because, the Astros are starting to run away with it, but I think the Rangers are starting to get their footing. Simeon's playing a lot better, and this team can be very dangerous as we've seen in years past. Now, the team's fallen, like I said, the Twins and the Guardians, awful weeks last week, 1-5, as the Tigers stumbled a little bit too, but they just couldn't keep up. And unfortunately for them, they are still behind the 8 ball. Guardians are 500, Twins are a game above 500. And then the Mariners as well. They fell one spot, but they did sweep the Guardians. So that's why they're ahead of them. And the team I haven't talked about is the Brewers. They lost to Atlanta at home. So that's not a good look there. But then they responded well, beating St. Louis, but they are as cold as can be. And the Brewers are still in the NL Central race. Obviously, they just passed the Cardinals this week with that series win. Now they're just chasing the Cubs like they have been all year. 11 through 15. And I think any of these teams can be ranked anywhere. As you can see, they're not really that much separated, except the Giants. The Giants have less losses than all of these teams. But everyone else, 3 of the 4 have 35 losses and either 36 or 37 wins. So 11 through 14 can be anywhere. The Giants, I'm just keeping them at 15. I think, if you add Rafi Devers into the equation here, I think they go from 15th probably up to 11th, just because their lineup obviously gets a lot better. And like I said, they get Boston this week. Both these two teams right around the same record, same pace of kind of where they are in the season, trailing in the division. And it'll be interesting to see when the Giants come to town in San Francisco. Must see TV there on Friday night. And then the other team in the NL West is the Diamondbacks. 5-1 week. They're moving up 5 spots, and I don't want them to get lost because they beat Seattle and San Diego at home. Now, can they keep the momentum going and possibly get back into the NL West race? And they get Toronto and Colorado. They should at least win 3 games, if not four, um, and really get back into the race and also the wild card hunt. Then the Reds, I think, are an interesting team. They went 4-2 last week, 2-1 against arguably the top two teams in the AL Central. The Tigers, obviously, best team in baseball right now, and the Guardians, both on the road. Says a lot that Terry Francona and how good he can manage a baseball team. Now they get Minnesota and St. Louis, two teams that are reeling. And if the Reds really want to push past the 500 mark, they got to do it this week in my eyes. 6 through 10, you'll find three AL East teams here in the Yankees, Rays, and Blue Jays. Yankees stumbled at the end of the week and they swept Kansas City. I'm like, all right, maybe they'll get revenge on Boston, but they've lost 5 out of their last 6 to Boston here in the last 14 days. And it's not a good look for them, obviously, with all the talent they have on the roster. Now, when they play each other again, I think in July, it's either late July or early August, the Yankees have to get that series. But this week they get a little easier schedule at home, Angels and the Orioles. They probably are going to go 5-2, if not better. The Yankees probably get back in the top five. Padres, they got to get revenge on the Dodgers this week if they want to keep up in the NL West. They got to win that series, at least go 3-1 against the Dodgers to really kind of flip the NL West back to the Padres' favor. And then they get the Royals to close it out. Cubs are the only team I haven't talked about yet and lost the series to Philly early in the week, but responded well with a nice home series win against the Pirates to stay afloat and stay kind of just right there in the mix in the NL for the top seed. And then they get Milwaukee and Seattle, two teams that I think could give them fits this weekend. But it's all right in front of the Cubs. They just got to keep on doing what they're doing right now if this team wants to win the NL Central. Now, 1 through 5, I think there's a case for 1 through 3. You can put any team at the number one spot at this point. Just because of their weeks last week, I got to put the Dodgers at 1 over the Tigers because beat San Diego on the road and San Francisco at home, two division opponents who are very close in the standings to you and possibly jumping you in the NL West, and you put them away and keep them behind you. That's a very good week there for the Dodgers. Now, can they repeat that success against the Padres this week at home? If they can and they go 3-1 and send the Padres packing, the Dodgers are going to get a very comfortable lead over the Padres in the division standings. Not the Giants yet, but definitely the Padres. Now the Tigers, 2-1 against Baltimore, which was expected, and then they lost to Cincinnati. Just a lot of errors for the Tigers, which is unlike that team. But they get Pittsburgh this week to kind of ease the waters. They should take that series. Then going to Tampa, I think is going to be a really good series for the AL. As you're going to see this week, it's probably the best series in the American League this weekend. So make sure you tune into that series. Now the Mets, Astros, Phillies. Mets just kind of coasted last week. Like I said, they lost to Tampa, but they did sweep the Nationals. But they go into Atlanta and into Philly. So it's a huge divisional week for the NL East. Everyone's playing everyone. And if the Mets can go in Atlanta, win that series, and go into Philly, then you might be looking at a new number one team next week just because what they did on the road. But same goes for Philly. If they go into Miami, sweep them, go 4-0, and then win 2 of 3 against the Mets, they might be the number one team as well, just depending on weeks. But the team I'm not going to overlook here is the Astros. This team has slowly been building to this point, and they are just on fire right now. 5-1 last week. Obviously, it was a very favorable schedule for them last week. Some lower end teams, I guess you could say. But then now they get AL West action on the road. Athletics, Angels, they've dominated them for the last 10 years. I expect the same. Probably a 5-2 week there for the Astros. That's going to be it for my power rankings this week. Check back next week to see where your favorite team ranks after a good week of games. Until next time, the Bench Buddies are out.